This afternoon we're fortunate to have as our guest speaker the CEO of the Cancer Council of Australia, Professor Sanchia Aranda. With 40 years' experience in cancer control as a clinician, as a researcher, an educator, a health system administrator, Professor Aranda is also the past president of the International Society of Nurses in Cancer Care. From her early career as a registered nurse in New Zealand, Professor Aranda specialised in cancer treatment and palliative care. She completed a Bachelor of Applied Science, a Master of Nursing, and a doctoral thesis in the nurse-patient relationship and psychosocial issues in palliative care. She's worked predominantly in research and in teaching roles since 1989, and her research interests centre on developing an evidence base to enhance supportive care outcomes for people affected by cancer. Widely published in international health literatures, Professor Aranda holds adjunct appointments at several Australian universities, including the University of Melbourne. It's a great pleasure to invite her to speak this afternoon. Please make Professor Sanchia Aranda welcome.
Thank you, Chancellor, graduands, academic staff, family and friends. It is my honour to talk to you today as you embark on the next phase of your career. I remember my own graduations fondly, but also how important they were to those who helped me on the journey. And so on your behalf, I would also like to acknowledge those who've helped you get here today and congratulate you on all that you have achieved to be in this position. Today, I want to talk to you about the power of moments. A moment is defined as a brief period of time. However, while moments are short, they are not insignificant. Despite their brevity, all of us will remember specific moments in our lives that take on a significance beyond what might be expected. In their book, The Power of Moments, Dan and Chip Heath explore why certain brief experiences can jolt us, elevate us, and change us, indeed take us from one place to another. They suggest that brief experiences can indeed change lives. These concepts resonate with me as a health professional and reinforce my long-held belief that we ignore the power of moments at our peril and limit our capacity for therapeutic advantage. I'm going to use two examples from my own career, but I hope that they will also resonate to all of the veterinary science graduates, all of the law graduates, because all of us deal with people often in crisis who are struggling to make sense of what's happening to them. In his book, Mum's Marijuana, based on the Triffid-sized marijuana plants his mother grew for his nausea and vomiting, Dan Shapiro describes his recovery after a bone marrow transplant. After a period of being intensely ill, Dan, a writer, felt ready to write again. As he began to write, he spilt his urinal all over himself and described how it took him from a position of hope to utter despair. A nurse came into the room and in a flash cleaned him up. He then described feeling completely restored and made human, and described how rare it was in his life to move so quickly between two such states of being. Sometime later, he was moved to thank the nurse, and she did not even recall the moment and was embarrassed by his praise. The power of this moment for Dan not only led him to a profound respect for the nursing profession, but became a central story in the book on his experience. This positive moment is contrasted with the experience of a family caregiver I interviewed for a study on patient and family experiences of palliative care. The woman's husband had died about 2 years before our interview, and she had clearly struggled to find her path through grief. While she was able to speak positively about the role of the palliative care team in her husband's final days and weeks of life, her overriding experience of grief was hampered by a fixation on a single moment of an unfeeling remark by a nursemaid during his last hospitalisation. The woman had approached the nurse as her husband was overdue for his pain medication and was beginning to feel uncomfortable. The nurse responded that she would get to the man eventually, but there were more needy patients demanding her attention at that time. The failure of this nurse to recognise that for that woman there was only one patient and that he would always be the most important was a moment on a shift of care that probably saw her predominantly provide exemplary care, but included one moment of thoughtlessness that would go on to be a part of a difficult grieving experience, a moment that was unresolved some 2 years later. So as professionals, as we encounter people facing illness, loss, stress, crisis, your opportunities to shape positive moments are beyond measure. You will move through days of difficult situations, competing demands and challenging interactions. I encourage you to never forget that what you say and how you act take on a significance way beyond what might be expected of people facing such crises. These situations heighten the potential for both good and bad moments in time that may go on to impact the lives of people for whom you care in ways that you cannot expect. You will not always get it right. No one can expect that. However, never forget that the ordinary and everyday for you is the scary and strange for someone who is facing a crisis, giving you the potential privilege of making a difference. I wish for you that the ledger at the end of your career will weigh heavily in favour of making positive differences, and I wish you every success in the future careers that you will enjoy. Congratulations.